preaching the gospel as a whole means that we need to look at the entire scriptures as a single unit. We do not focus on one book, one chapter, one verse. Everything is looked at within the context of the wider message. In the Nicene Creed, we define the church as Catholic. This comes from a Greek word, kataolos, which literally means concerning the whole. The church preaches the whole gospel to the whole of humanity for the whole span of human history. And preaching the gospel as a whole means that we need to look at the entire scriptures as a single unit. We do not focus on one book, one chapter, one verse. Everything is looked at within the context of the wider message. We interpret everything with a concern for the whole story. Consider, for example, what St. Paul says to the Christians in Corinth. You might have tens of thousands of guardians, but you have one Father. I have become your Father. So Paul clearly identifies himself as the Father of the Christians of Corinth. But what about what Christ says in the Gospel of Matthew? Call no man Father. How do we reconcile Jesus saying, call no man Father, with the apostle basically calling himself Father Paul to the Christians in the city of Corinth? Paul does this because he understands that there's a specific context for the teaching, call no man Father. There are times when it is completely appropriate to call our spiritual leaders Father. And this is a term that has been used for clergy, beginning with bishops and then going on to priests for centuries in the Christian church. So when we look at the teaching, call no man Father, or any teaching of Christ in the Gospels, we understand it, we interpret it through the wider context of the life of the church. If he says, call no man Father in Matthew, it has to be understood within the wider context of the New Testament, where Paul calls himself Father, and where in the book of Acts, Father and Fathers is used all the time to talk about our spiritual predecessors. We always look at things in the broader context. We are the Church Katholiki, the Church Catholic. We are concerned for the whole. St. Ignatius Branchaninov said this, when on a clear fall night I gaze upon the clear heavens, illumined by innumerable stars that send out a single light, then I say to myself, thus are the writings of the Holy Fathers. When on a summer's day I gaze upon the wide sea covered with a multitude of distinct waves, driven by a single wind to a single end, a single pier, then I say to myself, such are the writings of the Fathers. When I hear a well-ordered choir, in which different voices sing a single hymn in shimmering harmony, then I say to myself, such are the writings of the Fathers. In the Orthodox Church, it's not the voice of the soloist that we listen to, it is the collective voice of the choir, of the saints, of the scriptures, of the liturgical texts, of the sacred art, all of these things proclaiming with one voice the truth of Christ. You know, the word heresy comes from the Greek word meaning to pick and choose. If you pick and choose verses from the scriptures or quotes from the fathers, you can string together whatever teaching you want. This is not what we're interested in. We are interested in the collective voice. We are concerned with the whole. Because when the church speaks with one mouth and one heart, she declares the truth that will set us free.